Spoilers. Hang on, can't breathe. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my breakdown of the CCC, which I did almost a month ago now. A couple of you have asked for this video. I was going to do one anyway, but here we are. I've actually got to a point in YouTube career that people are asking for videos, so I'm very happy about that. The video itself is like blown up quite a bit compared to my other videos. It's on about 9,500 views now, and that is top 3 of all-time videos that I've ever uploaded, and that's including time passing and things being seen over time. So I'm really very grateful for that and very happy about that. Seems that a lot of people are interested in the CCC, I believe. Anyway, so I'm going to break down everything you might want to know about doing the CCC in the future. I can only tell you from my perspective how I got on travelling maybe from the UK and what it was like for me, but I'm sure it can be handy for you. I'll get on to the actual race in a couple of minutes, but I'll just quickly go over the travel there. So I travelled from Gatwick Airport. I drove down from Leeds to London. Probably didn't need to do that, but I was visiting someone down south the day before the race, or the day before I travelled. When I got to Geneva, initially I took the official bus to Chamonix, which was like a UTMB sponsored bus. That cost me about £36. On my way back, I got the Flixbus, and I have a Flixbus app. It's a European-wide bus company, and I would advise, maybe if you wanted to save a little bit of money, you can get the Flixbus from Geneva to Chamonix. They have an app, and you can check the times. It's probably going to save you a bit of money there. On the plus side, the Chamonix shuttle bus did deliver me right outside where I was staying in Les Houches, which is maybe about 10 kilometres or 8 kilometres from Chamonix centre. It's a little bit quieter than Chamonix, which is probably useful if you do want a bit of peace and quiet when you're not in the hustle and bustle of Chamonix. If you're not used to that kind of noise, it's a really busy place during this week. I'm sure it's lovely all year round otherwise. So I arrived about 3 days before the race. Gave me plenty of time to firstly like recce part of the course. I went up to Le Flégère on the 2 days before the race. Or was it the day before the race? 2 days before the race. 2 days before the race, I managed to get a recce run in and a shakeout run, and I went up to Le Flégère, which is the last checkpoint of the CCC and the UTMB. And it was really nice to just get an idea of what I was going to have underfoot for the entire race. I then came back down and chilled out, signed in, got all my stuff together. This is 2 days before the race, not 1 day before the race, so I've saved the last day for just chilling out. Yeah, so I had a day to just basically prepare all my kit, get my stuff into my bag, take it out again, put it back in again, take it back out again, as you do, and to buy a few extra little pieces, just in case. There was time to go around the expo, get a bit of extra race nutrition that I might not have brought with me. Obviously didn't bring any liquids with me as I flew, but I did have powder with me. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to talk about that as I went round the race, because I don't want to bore you with all this like beforehand. I did make sure I had plenty of stuff on me. Hang on. So in terms of the race nutrition, I brought with me on the first, I had 2 batches of food, which involved Cliff Bars, the actual bars, not the gels. Cliff Bars. I had 2 bottles of, what's it called? Active Root Ginger, ready to go. I had 1 empty bottle with the powder just in there, and I had 1 full of water for the start. I wasn't going to stick to that for the entire race. I just figured it would be a good way to start the race. And I had some Morton energy gels as well with me. Not the gel, sorry, the powder as well. So I had about 4 lots of powder with me, all divided in separate packs, because I do have a box of powder, and that does me for like a long fell race. I'll just fill up 2 bottles. But for this, I had the sachets, because I had plenty. I would have had time to refill the sachets and give them a good shake. So for the immediate nutrition, I always had this around my waist, and this was reserved just for nutrition, to make sure that I had it really handy. I could just grab it whenever I needed. So this is going to come into play later on in terms of the nutrition, because I've got a lot to say about on-course nutrition and aid station nutrition. So we started in Courmayeur. Lovely, 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 amazing atmosphere. I'll put some stuff on the screen, like some B-roll from the screen. I was warned mainly that around about the sort of 3K mark of the race, it gets very, very narrow and people start getting their poles out because you start climbing. And I just wanted to be sort of comfortably where I wanted to be by that point. So I was in the wave 2 of the race. I started probably somewhere in the middle of wave 2. And I figured that's roughly halfway. There's 3 waves. I figured that's about halfway. I'll start there. And it felt fairly comfortable. Quite slow going to begin with through the town. But there was obviously, like they say it's narrow, but there's obviously points where you can weave it out and get a bit further up as you go into like kilometre 3 or so. I had my poles with me. A lot of people got their poles out, but I was sort of determined to like just power hike up where it was just switchbacks after about 3 or 4K, or between 3 and 6K roughly. I was just going to power hike up there. It wasn't too steep. It was walkable, and it was quite a slow pace because everyone's kind of trudging up. So I figured no poles just for that. When it gets really bad, I'll get the poles out. When it does get sort of almost impossible to overtake, I can get the poles out. Poles. The quiver was really good. So I've got the quiver here. That's an essential piece of kit, definitely. On my gear list video, I have it across my back like this, and I eventually changed it to a diagonal because it would distribute the weight a bit better. That said, after the first hill, these were pretty much in my hand the whole way, but still quite useful for storing stuff. So it took me about 2 hours to get to the top of the first climb. And by then I'd had two energy bars, and I was trying to drink the Morton Energy drink regularly. I just figured first 2 hours pretty crucial. You're a fifth of the way there in the climbing, and it's a race with roughly 6 hills, and to get to the top of the first in 2 hours bodes really well. And this is where it's like a lovely run across to the second hill, and it's quite easy going. People are in high spirits. It's bright, it's the morning. There's plenty of sunlight, not like later on, and it was just fun. And I wasn't trying to get too carried away. Obviously, you can sprint downhill and stuff, but that your quads are getting wrecked then. But like, you can still go, or I can still go. I felt good that I could just keep going. I'm quite good at running downhill. I've got a fell running background. I'm not like a roadie that much, so I quite like the trails. And that's when the rain started at Refuge Barton. I got to Refuge Barton, and I wanted to just run through the checkpoints because I had enough. I'd just topped my water up and just wanted to go. I got stopped by a marshal saying, "You must put your jacket on, I was thinking, oh God, come on. Like, I can choose when I put my jacket on. But he was making the runners put their jacket on, so I thought, I'll stick it on and I'll take it off in 5 minutes time if I don't feel right. That did stay on. Like, the rain got pretty bad. He was right, obviously. I got a bit down in the rain because I thought, oh, here we go. This is what it's going to be like all day. There was no visibility on what was meant to be the most picturesque part of the course. It was the first time where I was like, I'm about 2.5 hours, less than 3 hours in, and I'm already thinking this is crap or this is bollocks, and I'm not really feeling it, and I'm trudging a bit, and I feel a bit tired, and also the quiver on my back, I knocked it or nagged it when I was taking it off, and it unhooked and fell down, and I thought, oh, here we go, this is going to happen like 6 or 7 times now. Luckily that was the only time. And then the fog and mist sort of cleared a little bit, and so did my brain fog, I guess, and I cheered up again. And that was like one of the only times where I was feeling bad. I think it's because it was just a passing shower, and I thought, okay, it could be okay. Well, the weather's good. I think on the video, on the race film, I do say at this point, I'm like, oh, now there goes my like time or whatever, thinking, oh, this is definitely gonna be 24 hours. And mentally, I was ready. I wanted to do a sub 20. But I was willing to accept like 24 hours as like a B goal, really. So we get into the second checkpoint again. I still feel pretty good. I think I grabbed a slice of watermelon just to clean out my mouth from eating a lot of snack bars and stuff, and then like headed back out for the second climb. And again, just wanting to enjoy that climb. A lot of talking to other people, except for when it got very steep. We're climbing up to Grand Col Ferret in the fog, and it's utter silence. There's nothing. We're just like leaving Italy. We're getting to the top of Switzerland, or the border of Switzerland, and up until like that maybe that like last 200-300 meters, it's just utter, like you're looking down and everyone's like totally quiet. A few bonkers. I noticed I passed a few people who were just like really struggling with that hill. And it's the second hill, and given the first two climbs are pretty much the biggest climbs, it does knock your confidence a bit. So you're like, wow, like is this what it's going to be like? But you also have to know that they're the two biggest climbs of the day. So you get to the top of Grand Col Ferret, and then you've got an 18-kilometer descent. And Jack, who's my friend who I stayed with, he told me this is the most fun part of the course, because I don't know about you, but very rarely do I get the chance to run 10 miles downhill. A few little bumps along the way, but otherwise, yeah, it's a downhill 18-kilometer part of the course. So you're at La Fouli. So I get into La Fouli, again, quick turnaround. Just a few bits. I've still got loads of food on me. I've got the Kendall mint cake as well. I've got this Kendall mint. This is a bit of a game changer, this, by the way. It's just pure sugar. And I had about 4 bars of this. And at this point, I was more on the sugary things than the bars. So I'd eaten loads of bars going up the first section. And that like laid a baseline of energy, basically. I wasn't hungry. I picked up a few bits of bananas at the aid station, but just grabbing stuff and going with it, because I don't want to spend too much time in those aid stations. The first 3 aid stations, like La Fouli, which is this one, the 2 before, I'd literally just grabbed whatever I could see straight away and then just carried on straight out. I was making up loads of places on those aid stations because I had it on me. Now, one of the things about having a food on you is you're not relying on the system of crew. So I didn't have any crew, and a lot of people think the crew is a really good thing to have, but like the transport, the buses, I heard there was a bit of chaos for that. There was a lot of runners saying, oh, my crew didn't turn up at the aid station, or I had to wait for them, or we couldn't reach each other once we got there. I just basically got rid of a potential problem by just not having it and not worrying about it and just having it on me. Yes, I'm heavier, but it's food. I'm carrying food. I can carry food. So I leave La Fouli, still in good spirits, and then I'm on my way to Champex. Again, it's more downhill along a river, really easy. Lots of road as you go into the lower villages. And then I'm halfway there, like it's 50k, and then you start climbing up to Champex. So Champex is halfway up another climb. I consider it its own climb. So on the map, if you look at it, it looks like 5 spikes, but there's a mini spike before the third. So you consider the third, the fourth, and the mini spike the third spike to Champex. And by the time I get to Champex, that's when I decide to sit down, to take my shoes off, to rearrange things, to have some proper food. And this is where this comes in. This is one of the most important purchases I made this weekend. So it's a Raid-Lite cup, and it folds out to a proper cup, like that. So on the CCC and the UTMB, when you get to the bigger aid stations, they serve soup with noodles. It's like liquid soup, so like le bouillon type stuff. And then they just dunk the noodles in there afterwards, and then there's bread as well. If I'd have had a flimsy cup, I would have been apprehensive to take any hot beverages in it, because it's flimsy, it conducts heat, and I can't imagine walking across an aid station floor with the flimsy cup. And because I had this cup, it takes a bit more capacity as well. I turned up with my cup ready in the side, turned up, got my soup, walked along like this, grabbed 2 slices of bread, sat down, and I had a cup of soup and 2 slices of bread, and it was like having a full meal at that point. So I got this in Chamonix. It was in a shop, like a camping outdoors shop, very close to the event village, and it cost about €5 or something. I recommend everyone take this cup with them. Don't take a flimsy cup. It'll put you off your food. It'll put you off the eating. You'll think it's impractical for me to take soup. Don't think like that. Take your soup, eat your soup. It's solid food, it's perfect. Noodles, perfect. Loads of calories in them. Probably saved my race. I was feeling mega refreshed after my 10 to 20 minute, or 15 minutes, I don't know, I have to look on the thing, at Champex. And it's like an unofficial halfway point, but you've done 55 rather than 100, rather than 50. So you've done more than halfway. So your spirits are up. You've got 3 more climbs to go, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good still. I could have stayed longer at Champex, but because I was feeling okay, and the other reason why I only stayed like 15 or so minutes, it was 6:30 at night, and we've got 3 more big hills, and I thought I'm going to slow down. As soon as it gets dark, I'm slowing right down. You just do. You're going to have a head torch on. You're going to be able to see less. So I figured, get out fairly quickly and just keep going up that hill. So before I got to the top of the next hill, it was just about getting dark. So I managed to get all the way to the top of that before it got dark. And obviously, like, this is where, if you're slower, or if it takes longer, you've got more dark to run through. And I figured that, like, the quicker I am on this first half, or this section, the more advantage I have, essentially. Like, so I get to the top of that one. Considering there's 3 quite similar looking hills when you look at the course profile, I found that pretty hard, and it went on for ages. As far as I remember, it seemed to go on maybe longer than the second climb. So that did knock me a bit. I was like, oh my god, there's like 2 more of these bad boys. Also the descent into Triant, I did struggle a bit, and for some reason, it might have been because I was rushing in and out of aid stations and I wasn't finding I wasn't keeping my place. On the descent, I was getting overtaken by, I think I lost maybe about 25, 30, 40 even places on the descent, and I consider myself to be quite good at descending, and it was quite bad for morale being overtaken. It tended to be like large groups of Spanish or French groups, and it was almost like they were chatting to each other and having quite a good time, and I'm like going down and thinking, oh god, I'm getting overtaken by all these people. This is my bunk. This is my bunk. So I get into Triant, like, not in the best of spirits, but then I sit down, I take my shoes off, and sitting next to me is a woman who is a she's crew for these 2 British guys who are also sitting next to me. They're in a bit of a mess. I think one of them's trying to convince the other not to give up, and the woman's kind of like, the woman is turning to me also and asking me, oh, do you want some more soup or whatever? Like, I'll go get it. I'll do whatever you need. And I was like, oh yeah, great. Hand me some soup. I handed her my cup and she got me my soup. While these 2 were chatting about whether or not to continue. I'm sure she'd been there for hours and hours and hours waiting for these guys. And to my right, there's this Polish guy he's being sick. He's like got his head between his legs and he's on here. And I'm just thinking, I don't feel quite as bad as that guy, and I don't feel half as bad as that guy. So what have I got to worry about? I did have to do some foot care at this point. So I was wearing Hoka Speed Goats, the brand new ones. They worked fantastic for me up until this point. We're talking 70 odd K here. I had strapped up my toes. I think I've got a couple of toes with like dodgy nails on them, and I'd strapped them up, and I think the straps on them had started to sort of rub and stuff, and I think I did have to pop a blister on my toe, which is very rare for me, but I mean, I'm gonna forgive Hoka for that after 70K. I go out of Trion, up the next climb, and I'm just in the zone. I've got my head torch on. It's quite grassy. There's nothing to see. There's no views because you're in the dark. This hill, okay, so this second to last hill might have escaped my memory, but all I remember is it being kind of nothing. Like it was kind of easy, unless I just remember it wrong. So please let me know in the comments if you did the CCC. Did you find the second to last hill difficult? Because I kind of don't remember. I remember the descent on this hill was much easier than the one before. So the one before, there was lots of steps. So I think it was quite a well marked path, and it had lots of, you know, big steps. And I struggled with those big steps, where this one was more grassy and just gentle. And I found that okay. And you come into Vallorcine. So we're nearly there. We're nearly there. Sorry about this. This is a long video. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to talk about, but I think all I can do is just tell you how I felt. We get into Vallorcine, the last aid station. I think I ran it in with a British guy called Tom. And again, like I put my stuff down on a bench, and he's got his own crew with him. And again, he's got a lovely crew guy who's like, oh, do you need anything? Like, I'm here to help, and I'll help you as well. I didn't need anything, but what I did do is I grabbed like one energy bar off their group, off his crew boss, and chowed down on that. It's at this point, you might not want to hear this, but this is where I had a bit of chafing that I had to deal with. So I went to the bathrooms and lubed up again. I might have put tape there. No, I didn't. So I had to put a bit of Vaseline in my area to sort out that, which it seemed to do the trick as far as I can remember. And then leaving Vallorcine, high spirits, you know, skiing away with my poles up this gentle slope. You get to a crossroads where there's loads of marshals cheering you. There's a checkpoint there, and then in front of you is just head torches for days, going all the way to the stars. So I'm looking up, I'm just seeing countless switchbacks, and at one point I'm running with this guy, an Australian guy, and we're both looking up at this, being like, oh shit, this looks awful. This looks awful. And it was. I look back on the UTMB footage of like Kilian Jornet and Tom Evans and all the runners going up that, finding it easy with the poles, just bang, bang, bang. But honestly, like, it was one of the hardest climbs I've done in my life. I think it's a nature reserve or something, and it's just boulders. The path is really uneven. I was getting overtaken again and again, got lost a few places, and it just felt like it was awful. It was awful. A little bit more of a climb than the other two. There's a checkpoint up there eventually. You know, this was like 1 a.m. I left Vallorcine, and for my 20 hour, able to do it in 20 hours, I needed to get this bit done in 4 hours. And I was thinking, I don't know if this is possible. And at the moment, I know when I can't get there within 20 hours, I know it's going to totally break me, and it's going to be closer to like 24 even, maybe. Or might just break down the way you do is when you get disappointed. Yeah, I can't even describe how hard this bit is. How do you prepare for it? I don't know. I don't know. I think you've just got to get it done. I think you've just got to don't worry about it and just keep going. I just kept moving forward. I was complaining a lot. I'll admit, like, I was moaning. I had this guy with me, and I'm sorry to this guy, because he was a Canadian guy, that's it. It's a Canadian guy. I'm really sorry, man, because, like, all I was doing was moaning about how hard this bit was. We finally get to the checkpoint right at the top, and then it's only 3 kilometers to La Flagère, which is where I know, because I've recce'd that bit, and I know that it's only maybe 45 to an hour home. But the problem with Flagère is you can see it. You can see it for maybe 3 kilometers, and the path is taking you towards it, and then it's taking you away from it, and then you're going up, and then you're going down, and you're just seeing the lights in the distance, and you're just take me towards it, please, just take me towards it. And these paths are taking you away, and you're wiggling around these, the sides of this mountain, and you're just getting really frustrated. And this has happened to me before. I did this when I did the Spine Sprint. I was in the dark and I could see the silhouette of Stoodley Pike. And again, like, in the dark, you just can't tell how far something is away. And it's really demoralizing when you're taken away from it. So I finally get to La Flagère. I'm at Flagère, 3:59. I've got an hour and 15 minutes to get to Chamonix. An hour and 15 minutes. I need Coke, and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go after I've had some Coke. Downhill, it's all downhill, but at this point my legs are shot. So I start running downhill, and I've got that, like, forced brake going on down this ski. I'm thinking I can mainly walk this. I was sort of walking down in pain, obviously. And it's quite steep. It is quite steep down from La Flagère. It's a lot of cinder track. But there's loads of tree roots that I didn't even notice on my way up the previous day, or the few days before. Like, it is actually fairly technical with all the tree roots and big steps and stuff. When you're knackered, you notice it more. I can't tell you how mentally to cope with that last hill. But I think what got me there was because I'd done 80, 90 kilometers, and I knew I was finished. I just needed to do it. But otherwise, the rest of it did feel like a race. I could race the entire thing. I was, like, quite high spirits. I was thinking constantly of it being a race and being able to cope with it in that sense, rather than I just need to survive. It was only really the last hill where I just felt like I need to survive. So you get into Chamonix. You've seen the footage of, like, the finish of the TDS, the finish of the UTMB. Fantastic. Fantastic atmosphere. To be honest, even at 5:15 a.m, the atmosphere is pretty cool. Like, it's quiet, but I finished the CCC. Absolutely chuffed. I think the first thing I did was I got a beer. I'm standing around. My friend Jess is there to help mum me back to, back home, whatever. I'd advise that you do have a friend waiting for you at the finish if you can. Because it is quite difficult. There's lots of stuff going on. All the marshals are dealing with all the finishers. Even when I finish, there's someone coming in, like, once a minute, once every couple of minutes. So you're kind of on your own. You have to get back to the sports centre where your bag is. So you don't forget that you've got, like, another kilometre walk back to get your stuff. So my plan was to get my stuff and come back and just carry on watching people coming in. But as soon as I got to that sports centre, I was offered a bed. They've got these camp beds out in the gym, and I figured the best thing to do was to just wait until daylight so I could go back out and have some breakfast, or wait until about 8 o'clock in the morning. So what I did, I went there, got a camp bed, slept in a camp bed for about 3 hours. And then I woke up, it's daylight, and I can wander back to Chamonix and have a coffee. And I think I had a coffee and a beer, I think, in the morning. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was sort of messing about there until about midday, watched a few people come in, and then finally went back to have a rest. And then that was it. That was my CCC experience. Now, that's pretty long-winded, sorry. I'm happy to answer anything in the comments because I'm sure I forgot some stuff. If you've got any questions about CCC, I'm happy to answer them. I can only tell you about my experience. I'm not qualified to give you advice on what was right to do, what was wrong to do. But as far as I'm concerned, I did most of it right. It might have been a fluke. It might have been just experience and knowledge. But I feel like I did it well. I think I did a good job. So yeah, hit me up in the comments if you've got any questions. If you want to argue any points I made, feel free to. I'm happy to just tell you how I feel about that. And thanks for watching.